Hi, I'm Brandon Christopher King. In this video, we're going to dive into a concept that takes Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, and expands it into something far more profound. A new equation that reveals not just how energy and mass are connected, but how the entire universe organizes itself into the stable structures we observe. You've heard how energy and mass are interchangeable. But have you ever wondered, where does mass come from in the first place? What if I told you, I have created an equation that doesn't just explain how energy is released from mass, but how mass itself is created? Let's explore how this equation, E-flow equals R times c squared, changes everything we know about energy, mass, and the very nature of reality itself. Get ready for a new way of seeing the universe. We all know Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. It's a cornerstone of modern physics, the key to understanding how mass and energy are interchangeable. It explains how a tiny amount of matter holds an enormous amount of energy, but it doesn't tell us how matter forms in the first place. It tells us how energy can be released from matter, but not how matter comes into existence. What if I told you there was another equation, one that extends Einstein's work, one that explains not just how mass and energy relate, but how the entire universe organizes itself into stable structures? That equation is E-flow equals R times c squared, and it changes everything. Let's take a step back. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, is powerful because it tells us that mass and energy are two sides of the same coin. It explains why nuclear reactions release so much energy, why stars shine, and why particles annihilate in bursts of light. But here's the thing. It assumes mass already exists. It assumes that matter is a given, something that we take for granted. But have you ever stopped to ask, why does mass exist at all? What if mass isn't a fundamental property, but an emergent one, something that forms from deeper processes? That's where E-flow equals R times c squared comes in. This equation doesn't just describe how energy is stored, it describes how energy organizes itself. It shows us that the universe isn't just a collection of isolated objects, it's a flow, a dynamic system where everything is interconnected. Let's break this down. E-flow is the fundamental energy that drives creation. Instead of stored energy waiting to be released, it's energy in action, energy shaping reality itself. R is resonance, the stability of the flow. In RLFlow, mass isn't an intrinsic thing, it's a stable flow pattern. Matter is nothing more than a vortex in the cosmic river of energy. C squared is still the speed limit, the maximum speed at which these interactions happen. Just like Einstein's speed of light squared set the scale for energy release, here it governs how fast energy can organize into structure. I like to refer to this as the speed of creation. To truly understand what this means, imagine a whirlpool in a river. That whirlpool isn't a thing, it's a pattern, a structure created by the movement of water. It exists because the flow around it is stable enough to hold it together. Now apply that idea to the universe. What if atoms, particles, even galaxies weren't solid objects, but stable flow structures? What if mass is just a place where energy has settled into a stable resonance? This changes how we think about everything. Matter isn't a fundamental property of reality, it's a process, an organized dance of energy flow. The reason we perceive something as solid is because its energy is locked into a stable pattern. Now let's take this even further. If mass is just a stable energy flow, then what is force? What is gravity? In classical physics, force is something that acts on an object, but in RLFlow, force isn't applied. It emerges naturally when flows interact. Think of two whirlpools in a river. If they move closer, their flows interact, shifting and distorting each other. That's what we call a force in RLFlow. It's not about one thing pushing another. It's about flows finding equilibrium. Gravity in this view is just a curvature in the flow field, a bending of resonant energy. Instead of being a fundamental force, it's simply the way stable flows adjust to each other's presence. It's not objects pulling on each other, it's the structure of the flow itself, shifting in response to mass-like resonance. Now you might be wondering, how does this equation build on Einstein's work? The answer is simple. Einstein's equation tells us how energy is released from mass. My equation tells us how mass is created from energy. E equals mc squared describes how mass holds energy and can be converted into it. E flow equals R times c squared describes how energy stabilizes into mass in the first place. Einstein's work showed us how much energy is inside matter. RLFlow shows us how energy becomes matter. Once you see the universe this way, everything starts to make more sense. Dark matter? Maybe it's not some mysterious, invisible substance. It's just a resonance pattern we haven't been able to detect yet. Dark energy? It's not a separate force. It's the expansion of the cosmic flow field itself. Even quantum mechanics. Why do particles seem to pop in and out of existence? Because at small scales, the flow is turbulent. It's like watching rapids in a river. Stable whirlpools form and dissolve all the time. That's why quantum behavior seems unpredictable. It's just the nature of high-energy flows. If we truly understand this equation, we're not just rewriting physics. We're unlocking entirely new technologies. Energy generation. If we learn to manipulate flow resonance, we could generate energy far more efficiently than anything we've ever seen. Gravity control. If gravity is just a flow effect, we could one day alter flow resonance to create anti-gravity fields. Matter creation. If mass is just a stable flow, could we engineer new matter out of pure energy? What if we could create elements on demand? This is where science meets possibility. We're not just describing the universe, we're learning how to shape it. E flow equals R times c squared tells us something profound. Energy is not just something we burn, consume, or transfer. It's the structure of reality itself. Mass, forces, even space and time. They are all just different expressions of flow. Once you start seeing the world this way, you'll never go back. You'll see that nothing is truly solid. Everything is motion. Everything is flow. And the greatest insight of all, you're not separate from it. You are part of the flow. You are a pattern in the great resonance of the universe.